everybody, and welcome to another special guest episode of Armchair Keepers for Arcane Secrets. I'm host number one, Matt Ryan.
And I'm number two, the Deuce, Bob Geis. And we're joined here by the incomparable Paul Fricker.
Our very special guest.
Hello, pleased to be here.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you for joining us. How are you this afternoon?
Yep, I'm very good. Thank you. I failed to be sitting in an armchair, as we are armchair keepers, are we not?
That's a good point. This chair has no arms.
Right off the bat, he's an aggressive guest.
We were afraid of this.
Paul, the show, as you know, because I know you've watched every episode.
Yeah.
We're Masks of Nyarlathotep centric. Is that correct, Bob?
That's what I would say.
And we've been running these babies now for Jeepers. We're 8 sessions in. We run really like one. The average is 1.5 a month, right? Because we've been doing this since January.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a big commitment. It's a big campaign. And Paul, we know that you were involved. We know that you were involved with the construction of this new edition.
Yeah, I'm going to frame everything I say by the fact that it was like 7 or 8 years ago since I worked on it, and I've had nothing to do with it since then. So if memory lets me down, that's my excuse that I'm going to fall back on with pretty much everything you asked me.
Well, no problem, because I haven't read the whole thing yet, so the questions are not going to be too exacting.
Okay. I feel better already.
Good. You know what? We didn't start as a timer, Bob.
Fantastic.
Did you start a timer?
I totally did.
The height of professionalism here, folks.
I expect nothing less.
How did it happen? How'd you get roped in? It was Mason, right?
Yeah, it was that Mason fella, Mike Mason. So we'd just put out, I think, Call of Cthulhu 7th edition had been published. It was now in print. And I think there was probably Doors to Darkness. There was Nameless Horrors. So there were a few books that that Chaosium had put out, some of which I'd worked on. I think we'd have also been probably working on, or maybe Pulp was out by then, and we'd been working on Two-Headed Serpent. So the next, Mike likes to take old things from the line, the best gems from the line, and polish them up and put them out, as well as bring out brand new things like Two-Headed Serpent was at the time. And the big star in the Call of Cthulhu history is Master of Nyarlathotep. That is and indeed not really just in Call of Cthulhu, but in the whole of role-playing games, it's one of the big, standout campaigns. I think everybody would agree. So it was like, that's the one we need to do. And Mike just got like a small team of us together to work on that, to edit it and bring it up to modern standards and the new rule set, and put that out.
Very good. Now, do you remember more specifically what bits you were involved in?
Yeah, for sure. So the remit was each of us would take different chapters. So I was doing Kenya and Australia.
You did Kenya and Australia?
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, because Kenya is Bob's favorite chapter.
Yes.
And Australia is his most loathed.
Well, okay, so that's I this is a good time to broach that subject as any. I've run Mass several times, Paul, and in my running of it, I've never visited Australia, right? And it's just because the players have never done that, and so I think that but this is my first running of the new version, right? And I think that you and your team planted in better hooks than were ever put in before to attract people to Australia. Because if my memory serves, in the prior editions, the only thing was really that lecture that you got at the very beginning. The lecture had already happened, and so there wasn't a lot to clue players into needing to go there. But I'm actually very curious, to see if my players will take the bait and go to Australia, because I do think that it does deliver some good things, right? I think it has probably the most clean confrontation with one of the Carlisle expedition members of
Mm.
any of the chapters. And I would like to see that play out. But again, I'm not dictating this. My players will go where they go.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, Australia wasn't in the original Master and Lathtep, so it was people looked at Master and Lathtep and thought that's just not big enough. We need to add another chapter. At some point, they did that, right? And I guess that there was a suggestion in the original. I don't remember reading the original pre-Australia, but I guess there was a suggestion that there was something going on in Australia, and that was a kind of an obvious thing that could be expanded into a chapter. So hopefully with the new version, we've reworked that, and as with all the chapters, we tried to seed more links and clues and sort of for the player characters, but also advice and structure for the keeper. So hopefully
Connect those things together. Yeah, no, there's it does a marvelous job on connecting all the different beats and all the different places, and continually reminding the keeper how these different things connect. And if the player, if something shows up, here's how you get there, here's how you get out, maybe.
Because you've both run the previous version or not? You have, Bob.
Bob has.
I've
never run it, so I'm coming at it as a brand new keeper. But I run games, so a brand new experienced keeper.
So I'm
kind of interested in the previous version. Obviously, people have been running that for like 3 decades and more. By the time we worked on it. So clearly, one could argue it was fine. People were running it and having fun with it, and it got a great reputation. But when I had played it, I think I'd played up until Egypt, and then I'd replayed the whole thing as a player, but I'd never run it. So when I came to read it, as someone who's going to be working on it and developing it, I found myself almost feeling like I was an investigator, and having to put pieces together as a reader of the campaign of the old version. So I recall there were things like the destiny of the Carlisle expedition in the Kenya chapter. It talks about what happened to them. It didn't really tell you. There were kind of clues, and I was like, well, yeah, but which page actually tells me what happened to them? It's not there.
Yeah. I think that's indicative of earlier styles of writing for TTRPGs. It's sort of this reveal to the reader, like a short story or a novel would be, whereas an RPG book is a manual. It should instruct the keeper how to use this thing at the table.
Yeah, because there were some things in there, like, they'd just be like hordes of monsters in certain scenes. You think, well, obviously keepers have dealt with this and managed it, but just giving them hordes of monsters against their players, that's quite a logistical, it's kind of a hard thing to manage as keeper. And wouldn't it be nice to give people a bit more of a helping hand? Because how much time do they want to spend prepping for this game? We want to kind of make it easier for people to run, and that's what we tried to do.
Well, I think I don't know if you've succeeded. I know that there's I don't know if you've failed either. I know that there's lots of advice for how to do it. Lots and lots of advice, and there's a lot of suggestions, like this might be the climax of this chapter, or it might be this over here. And there's lots of different suggestions as to how it molds in. And as a first time running it, I'm really discovering how much of a toolbox it really is. I mean, Hoto, my experience running a big Call of Cthulhu campaign, the big one was running Horror on the Orient Express. And that is really plug and play. It's sort of do this, do this, do this. And I think really any keeper could run that and be successful at it. Masks is a different level. It takes a different level of driver.
Yeah, it's complex. There's a lot going on. I think that my experience running the older version to the new version is that the older versions were there was less content that I had to digest. Right, just it may have not been as as clear. It may not have been as painted out for me, but it was easier for me to process because there was less of it. Now there's a lot more of it, and so I would say, in terms of prep, it's about equal, right? I really don't
Right.
feel that I don't know. And again, it was, back in the day, and it's probably been 10 years since I had run it previously. But I think that the new edition is fantastic. All of the additions that have been made are good, especially to individuals who don't have experience with the other campaign, right? Again, it's one of my foundational sorts of experiences with Call of Cthulhu was masks. And I dearly love it, both the old and the new. So I would have to say that it is a challenge to run. I think that you've done a very nice job of painting the picture of how things link together. But I still think that the old version was digestible.
Yeah, I mean, the old version in your hands, Bob, is you're what's the word? You're a marvelous keeper. You're a great games keeper.
We hear.
Yeah,
We hear.
again, there's
God's
no
never
proof of
actually
this.
run a
I've never
game
run
for
it.
us.
I could be
true.
lousy. I could be terrible, right? So
Now,
I've never
I've
run a game
played-
for you guys. So yeah,
I've
I just
had
wanna let you
Bob
know.
as a player, and I've had Paul as a player, and Paul has had me as a player. You love having me play your games, don't you,
I
Paul?
love it. I love it.
But we've never actually sat down and had Bob Geis run a
Mm.
game for us.
This is true.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yes. But what was my point was that probably any scenario in your hands is probably going to run well.
Yeah. Well, but yes, no, I think
Thank you.
a confident keeper with some experience under her belt could take almost anything.
Almost ironically, that back in the day when Mike was running Cult of Keepers, there was a certain scenario. Then this was a group of people that would run, much like Bob's U2 Can Cthulhu. A group of keepers that would go to conventions and run scenarios, and we had one. I won't say what it was, but we had one particular scenario on the page. It really wasn't very good, but us as keepers, we kind of took that as raw material and ran it at the cons, and we all loved running it. Because we all just kind of did different things with it and played around with it, and it was kind of source material as written. It's kind of weird how a scenario as written doesn't have to be great. It just has to kind of trigger your imagination enough, and if you're an experienced keeper, you can do fun things with it. But probably for a novice keeper coming to it, it might not. It might crash and burn. I don't know.
So that you raise an interesting point there. What was this thing? You and Mike used to run a collection of keepers that used to go to conventions and run games.
Mike ran it.
Oh, I didn't know that. And it was
really?
called. I didn't know that. What was it called?
It was called the Cult of Keepers with a K. It wasn't.
We spell our keepers with a C, but that's just us.
Yeah, I think it was to get away from the acronym for Cult of Cthulhu Keepers, which you can figure out.
Sure. I also want to back up. You said that you've played masks.
Yeah.
What? So that was years ago, years past when you were a player.
Yeah, in the about nearly 30 years ago, in the sort of late 90s. I played Mars, and I made a character, and I remember my character was called Elias something, and I drew this little picture of the character sniffing a flower, and they were a complete pacifist. And yeah, our keeper did a great job, but he was extremely tight on clues. So we went to Egypt with almost no idea. I think we just knew the barest minimal thing. And we went there to see what was going on, and then he had to move away, so that kind of cut it short. But it was great, yeah.
But then you played it again through its entirety.
So then about probably about 12 years ago at the Milton Keynes Role Playing Game Society, myself and Matt Sanderson were players in the same game, and I think we'd played Escape from Innsmouth and one or two other games, and then we took the same characters into Master and Nyarlathotep, and our friend Matt Knott ran it for us, and yeah, that was fun. That was so we went through the whole thing with that.
The whole thing. And how long, I guess my big question at the end of all these little questions is, and Bob and I talked about this a little while ago, is how did you keep your interest bubbling? How did you stay connected? It's this huge, massive thing with this long, pulled out ultimate climax.
So the club would meet every week, every Tuesday evening for 3 hours. And I guess there were times when I'd go back and I'd have lost the thread a bit because I'd been away for 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, but the group would carry on. So I seem to recall in Australia, I was like, what the hell is going on? Because I think I'd missed a bit maybe, or maybe I just zoned out. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, role playing is part social, isn't it? It's part just social of turning up and seeing your friends and rolling some dice and so on. And it's just, yeah, it kept our interest, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't remember how long we played it for. I guess it was probably the best part of a year.
Yeah, meeting weekly you'd move through it quicker, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So Bob wanted to talk about some of the other projects that you brought to fruition and some of your other scenarios that we call it the Fricker around the water cooler. We call it the Fricker trilogy.
Wow. Yeah, I'm telling you, Paul, those are some fantastic scenarios. I've run Full Fathom 5. You've run Full Fathom 5 for us for Utic and Cthulhu at Gen Con, which was an amazing time. And I really like some of the experimental stuff that you do with these scenarios that are, these are all available at Miskatonic repository, and I'll put the links in the description here. But they're good stuff, and they really are, things that keepers can get and really have a great time with. So yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about some of the Frickerverse, if you will.
So my first scenario on the Miskatonic repository on drive-through was Full Fathom 5. So that's inspired by Moby Dick. And yeah, it's set on a whaling ship. You talk about isolation. You're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a boat. You can't go anywhere. You've got that total isolation thing. And, obviously there's bad things going on. I don't want to give too many spoilers for it, but it does have a mechanic in there that is unusual.
Yeah.
Fantastic. My second one that I published on there is Dockside Dogs. Again, I tend to sort of pick up an influence from a setting from other media, like a book or a film or something. And whilst I don't think I mirror the fiction too closely, it's not like I'm taking Alien and setting a scenario aboard a ship with an alien on it. It's kind of like I just like that setting. So that one was mirroring Reservoir Dogs, the Tarantino film. But it didn't start off as that. It started off as something quite different, and then I realized that these people were hiding out at a warehouse, and I thought, hiding out at a warehouse, that's like Reservoir Dogs. Why don't I reskin it as that? And again, they're very much one shots, and I specify this in the listings for them that I say, if you're a new keeper, you might want to go and run something else, because this is not a standard Call of Cthulhu scenario. And I don't think they'd necessarily stand up well being in a book, against other scenarios, because they don't really.
What makes it not a stand-up scenario? That there's a finale?
No.
So that you couldn't use your existing characters in it is one thing. And you couldn't take the characters you've played in that scenario and continue into another game.
Is that what people do? It's not D&D.
It's what
sometimes.
It's what some people do.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I didn't realize that. We always have new characters.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to as well, but no, some people will, play. And as I just said with Masks, we did take our characters from Escape from Innsmouth and just step them on a year or two and
That's
play.
Right, the flower sniffing pacifist.
Oh, that was the previous version, but yeah, I can't remember what happened to him. I think he's lost in Egypt. And then the third one that I've got is what's it called? My Little Sister Wants You to Suffer, and that's influenced by I'm trying to. Should I give spoilers or should I not give spoilers?
Well, this is
This is a spoiler full, right? So
it's it's for keepers. So spoil it. Spoil the hell out of it.
So this is influenced by things like the Truman Show. And I kind of saw the Truman Show again a couple of years back, and I was like, "Oh Christ, that was what I'd watched and influenced me when I wrote that scenario because it just rang so many bells." The kind of the sort of fakery of it. So that's set aboard a spaceship in the future, and it uses that classic Call of Cthulhu setup, which I always love when a film has this kind of high concept setup. The characters wake up and they don't know why they're there. They don't know who they are. And I just think for a one shot, yeah, that's just fun. You don't want to do it too often, but that's kind of a fun setup. You're discovering about the world as you go.
Well, yes. It gets rid of the need for these lengthy backstories. They just sort of take up time at the table.
And one of the things I did with My Little Sister was you are in the ship. You wake up, like in a little, like a little sleep pod, like in Alien. And I give you half a dozen envelopes, and they're all sealed. And then at certain points in the game, pretty much random points in the game, I'd say, "Oh, open an envelope," and you get a memory back. But spoilers, they're not all real memories. So
now
that was kind of fun.
Is this seeded? Do you know what's in the envelope?
Yeah.
And who's going to get what?
Oh, yeah. They're tied to each character, which makes it a bugger when you're doing the envelopes and you've got all these pieces of paper printed out over your sitting room floor the night before the convention, and you're stuffing them into envelopes and you're going, "Oh shit, which envelope's this? Is it that one? Oh no, oh bugger, I've got to open all these again." And
you got to open them all.
But luckily, my wife loves helping with all that stuff, so I was sorted.
He's good.
Lucy, can you help me put these things in envelopes? I've got to do this tomorrow.
Now this is a US to UK question.
Oh, go on.
What level of swear word is bugger? Is it
pretty low?
It's low?
Yeah.
Like dang? Is it like a dang low?
We don't say dang.
What do you
Have
say?
You thought about it?
Bugger. It's like in the Harry Potter films when I think in the text it sort of says, "Oh, and Ron swore under his breath." You can put that in the book because the kids can read that and there's nothing offensive. But in the film, they'd got to like put a word into his mouth. So I think they said bugger or bloody. And either one of those is kind of pretty low scale.
All right. Okay, because at a certain to increase viewership at a certain point in these episodes, we'd start to swear, just this stream of conscious swearing.
Fuck yeah.
So fans really dig that shit.
They totally do.
Doesn't YouTube have algorithms to catch that stuff and then filter you out or something? I don't know.
We don't know.
I'm sure.
I have no idea.
No.
We got no fucking idea.
It could be armed forces outside the studio door waiting for us. We don't know.
So bugger is it's a fairly low level curse. I think we got derailed then. What were
now,
we talking
Paul, you've got a fairly extensive convention schedule, just like Bob and I do. Yeah, and did you just come off 2 conventions?
Yeah, yep. So we had Chaosium Con UK and Games Expo, also in UK.
Right.
Were those pretty close together?
A week apart.
Wow.
Yep.
Did you run games?
Yep. Yep, I ran some Call of Cthulhu.
Who would go figure?
Yeah.
What have you got coming up? If we have any viewers that want to meet you face to face and shake your hand, now are you approachable in real life, Paul?
Yeah.
You're going to be a
try and say something funny, but yes, I'm quite approachable. You can come up and say hello. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, I like talking to people. So please come and see me and say hello. Next convention I've got on the schedule is Gen Con. Yeah. In about
big one.
less than 2 months.
That's in Bob's backyard.
It is. It is.
That would be awesome if it was.
Short 30-minute drive. Fantastic. So, Paul, but wait, there's one missing piece that we haven't talked about, which is one of the scenarios that I've heard. My good friend Corey has run this for you, and that's Gatsby and the Great Race. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
So that's the first thing I had published by Chaosium back in 2005 under the Cult of Keepers. This was that we talked about earlier. It was one of the other keepers said, "Wouldn't it be cool if we could take a player from one game and walk them to another game and just drop them in?" And I thought that would be cool. So I wrote a game that did it. And we put up sign-up sheets for 3 games, well, 3 games called Repetition, Deviation. Anyway, yeah. And then we added a 4th one called Machination. And nobody knew that this was all the same game. Of course, now when you run it, it's all under one banner and kind of people know kind of the premise. But back then they didn't. And nobody knew that they might be moving from one game to another. And it was all in separate rooms, and that afternoon, Mike came over to me. He'd just been talking to Charlie Crank, who was the president of Chaosium at the time, and he said, "Oh, Charlie's going to join us in the game." And I'm like, "What? This is the first time we're running it. It's never been run before, and now we've got like the head man from Chaosium in the game." Okay,
that's perfect.
Yeah, kind of, but my stress levels were already quite high. And now they were like, because when you write a new scenario and you go to a convention and you run it,
it's gonna suck.
No.
Never.
Why? That's not where I'm going.
Well, when I do it, it's because when I write a new scenario, I know that by the end of the convention run, it's going to be good. But when I start the convention run, things are going to happen that I don't know how to resolve.
Do you find this, Bob?
Nah.
No.
I mean, again, I've run a bazillion convention games. And so, like, I know stuff's going to happen. It's going to go crazy. I don't care. Yeah, I got it. Our black letter games that we run every year at Gen Con, every time is the first time. Right. So
wait,
right.
But I interrupted your tale. So you're getting ready to run the game. All of a sudden, Charlie Crank's going to be there.
Yeah. So Charlie Crank's in the game, but that's kind of by the by. But so afterwards, one of the nice things about running Gatsby, I think, that I didn't anticipate is if you have a bunch of games, as you do, Bob, at a convention, you've got a bunch of people running games, all the players have a great time, and then they go off in their little cliques and they might sort of spend a few minutes talking about it and then go to the bar and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But with Gatsby, because they're all, you've got 4 games and they're kind of overlapping and people are moving from one game to another. At the end, everybody wants to kind of get together and talk about what happened in this game and what happened in their game. And it just brings the group together much more. So that was really gratifying. And then Charlie asked me to submit it for publication as what was called a MULA, which was a Miskatonic University Library Association.
Yeah.
The monograph. It's like a small print thing that Chaosium were putting out.
Black binder ones, right?
Yeah. So just very limited production and quite low production qualities. They were just kind of like, just kind of budget publication.
Sure. Well, the analog version of the Miskatonic repository, right?
Yeah, they were really, yeah. And he'd get a couple of 100 copies done and then just sell them at like, I don't know, conventions and mail order. They wouldn't go into retail, I believe. So it went out like that. And I really thought, this is such an undertaking. We had 7 keepers, we had 4 games, we had 24 players. We ran it about maybe 5 times. And it was a lot of work and a lot of preparation, a lot of logistics of sorting stuff out. And I thought, I worked really hard to write it as clearly as I could, but I kind of thought, I'm not sure anyone is ever going to take this on and actually run it. But they have.
Yeah.
Which is really the joy of it is other people actually running something you've written and telling you that they've had a good time with it. So, thanks to Corey Welch and other such people that have run it multiple times. So, yep. So the end of that story is I've been working on getting the text together. I've had it edited and it's been on the back burner because just other things keep cropping up. I've now,
Of course.
Lucy's working on laying it out right now. So I think, I'm going to have that out before Gen Con.
Oh,
Fantastic.
before Gen Con.
Yeah.
Is it being run at Gen Con? Do you know?
It has been run at Gen Con previously, not by me, but by another group. I know a couple of times. I know Matt Sanderson and his wife Tiffany joined in a game. Yes, probably pre-COVID, but
Yeah, no, and
Yeah, I mean,
I've been to shows where I know it's being run.
Yeah.
I
I'd
remember
love to run it. The
talking to
2026.
somebody and they were like a relatively new to role playing. They'd been role playing like 1 or 2 years, and they said, "Oh, and I've run some Call of Cthulhu." And I was like, "Oh, what have you run?" And they said, "Oh, well, there was this weird game where I ran that. There was multiple games overlapping." And I was like, "You ran that?" And they were like, "Yeah."
That's awesome.
Great.
That is awesome.
All right. Well, I think by the clock on the wall, which isn't running,
Yes.
we're at the end of our time, Paul. Thank
Yeah.
you. Sincerely, Paul and I were friends and we joke. We're three of us are friends, but sincerely, Paul, thank you for coming and thank you for joining us on the podcast.
I'm friends with Bob too, right?
Yes, we're all
Sure.
yes.
This is
Folks, Bob, do you want to do the begging for us?
yes. So, okay, we brought Paul Fricker. What more do we need to do to get you to subscribe and share this with your friends and comment below? Tell us if you like this sort of thing. Tell us if you wonder what Matt does in a hotel room. Let us know.
Or you could comment on any fond memories you have of your time with Paul, which that's sincere. I bet because Paul, you're a good lad, and a lot of people like spending time with you. Hey, real quick, the game that you ran you ran for Bob, the one with the alternate reality, is that ever going to see publication?
It is. It's in the fanzine for the Good Friends of Jackson Elias podcast, of which I was a host until recently. So that's called the Blasphemous Tome, and it's in issue, I want to say, probably issue 12. So I wrote it with that in mind. So we put out scenarios in that as well.
Very good. And what's it called? What's the title of that baby?
It's the Blasphemous Tome.
No, not the
scenario?
fanzine.
The scenario.
The scenario is called. What's it called, Bob? What did I call it?
I don't know. Well, I'll find it and I'll put it up.
A
here.
New Dark Age.
Yeah, New Dark Age. There we go.
That's right. But it's not medieval.
It's a New Dark Age.
Yeah.
New.
It's like Lovecraft's quote about the Dark Age.
Nice. Paul.
Thank you for joining
Hitting
us,
on all
Paul.
cylinders. Awesome.
Bob,
Thank
do
you
the
guys.
begging.
I already begged Matt. Already begged. I'll beg again. Subscribe, comment. Yeah. All right, fans. We'll talk soon.